Hello and welcome to another video. So this video is going to be informal, no fancy mics or anything like that. I'm just shooting straight from the camera because honestly I was just going to play a video game. And whenever I turned on this console, it's the Nintendo Wii by the way, just memories have started flooding back in. It's crazy how I'm thinking of these memories. So I'm playing the Nintendo Wii, or I was going to play the Nintendo Wii, and I'm thinking of this console right here, this Sony PSP. Now this is a 3000 model. There are other models like the Sony's PSP 1000, 2000, and PSP Go. I do not have access to the 2000, I never did. One of my ex-girlfriends had a Sony PSP 2000 and it did the same thing as the 3000. But hey, I'm not here to talk about the specs or anything like that. I'm here to talk about my memories with the PSP. So guys, go ahead, grab a cold one, pop some popcorn. This might be a long one, so here we go. Let's do my theme song together, guys. So guys, if you like that theme song that I work really hard on, give me a thumbs up or comment below this video. Tell me how great it was, or if you didn't like it, give me some constructive criticism. So if I didn't hit this note, just let me know if I didn't hit that note. If I hit it right, just say, yeah, that was good. That was good. But on to the video. So I'm going to start back in the year 2005 or 2006. I really can't remember the year it was. It was such a long time ago. I was a junior in high school. So I was thinking of getting a new Game Boy Advance because my Game Boy Advance at the time, it was degrading. The joypad was not responsive anymore and the R button was broken. So I wanted to get a new Game Boy Advance, and at the time I knew Sony had a new portable console coming out. It was very impressive looking. However, at the time I only saw screenshots on magazines. I didn't know how it looked in real life. I just knew from my mind, I was like, man, that looks impressive. And I saw the price of it. I'm like, I can't afford it. There's no way. So I saved up enough money to get a new Game Boy Advance. But I didn't just want a new Game Boy Advance, I wanted a Game Boy Micro. Let's be honest guys, that thing sucks, alright? It drains the battery's life on that thing is crap. So I wanted to get one of those just because it was a small Game Boy Advance. At that time I met this guy, his name was Carlton. And he was playing a PSP. He had a PSP, so I introduced myself to Carlton. Now this guy, he became a really good friend later on in my life. But at the time, you know, we were just getting to know each other. I said, wow, that's a PSP. I've never seen one. This is the first time I'm actually looking at a PSP. And he's like, yeah, it's pretty cool. He was playing this Dragon Ball Z game, and I'd never seen anything like that on a portable video game device. I was impressed. I was jealous. I was like, dang, that is so cool. And at the time, it was like a math class. We were talking about our interests because whenever we finished our assignments in that class, we got to just hang out and talk. So we were talking about JRPGs and stuff we're into, music. We both like Japanese rock. We both like JRPGs. We like fighting games. We like Street Fighter. And I said, man, I wish I could get one, but I'm going to get a Game Boy Advance. And he's like, gave me this look like, why? Why are you gonna get a Game Boy Advance when you have this new cutting edge technology coming out, this PSP? And I said, I simply just cannot afford one. It was at this time, I was a junior in high school. I didn't have a job, alright? I did not have a job, I didn't work. My parents didn't think I should get a job when I was in school. They wanted me to focus on my studies, which was fine. But I have to note that, since I didn't have a job, I had to make money because my parents, they did buy me stuff, but like a video game console like this, they would not buy it for me. So I had to come up with the money somehow. And I just want to go on record saying, when I was a sophomore in high school, I was a good kid. When I was a junior in high school, I was not such a good kid. So this is, but oh my god, saving up for a PSP is what turned me into a pretty bad kid. So I did save up money by selling things. I didn't sell drugs, so don't worry about that. I'm not gonna talk about that. I sold my keyboard. I used to play keyboard, like piano, and I sold it to my little brother, Josh. I sold it for $100. It was valued at $50, and I knew this. I sold it to him. I cheated my brother off $100, made a huge profit. I'm like, okay, I have enough money now to buy a PSP, but I need to buy a game. I barely have enough money to get the PSP by itself. But I wanted games for it, so I had to make more money. I'm like, man, I really want a job, but I can't get a job because my parents won't let me. And I don't have a car, so there's no way I can drive myself to work or anything like that. So I have to make money elsewhere, and this is where it gets pretty bad. So when I was in high school, I was known for drawing really good. I drew a lot of cartoons. I entered a lot of competitions. I won a few of them. And the way I would win was by speed drawing. I would draw a certain drawing in a certain amount of time, maybe like 1 minute. I would draw like 2 characters fighting each other, or I would draw 2 characters eating. And I would do this really quickly, faster than a lot of people in the town I was in, or the city I was in. But yeah, I was known for drawing really fast. I was really efficient in my art skills. And I remember someone telling me, just right after I saved enough money to get a PSP, that they would pay good money if I drew hentai. Now, I know what hentai is. I knew what that was. I knew what that was for a while when I was a teenager. And I was like, hentai, huh? And so I drew a drawing right there. It took me about like 2 minutes to draw my first hentai. And the guy that said, oh my gosh, can I have that? And I said, you said you would pay if I drew it and gave it to you. So, are you going to pay me? And he's like, okay. He gave me $10 for a drawing. I'm like, I can make some money off of this. And he said, will you be interested to draw more? And I said, yeah, I can draw as much as you want me to. And so he goes out of his way. He tells 10 other people that I draw hentai. And so the school knows about this. The teachers know about this. They tell me I should not be doing this. This is not right. I could get in trouble. And I said, hey, I didn't tell them this. I said this in my brain. I said, I need to make money, okay? And my parents won't let me get a job, so I'm going to draw hentai. And that's what I did. And do I regret it? No, because that money, it allowed me to buy games. It allowed me to buy PSP games. So I drew hentai. I sold it to people. Oh my gosh. I drew lots of hentai. And I sold it to like 10 different people. Some at one point, at its peak, it was 15 different people. They were perverts, man. And we would do it so discreet in the art room that I would put it in an envelope and I would deliver it in their box, because each art student, we had a box. And so I would deliver the drawings to them. So how I would get paid was they would pay me first. I would not draw anything until I had the money. And whenever I had the money, I was obligated, because I'm a good person, Whenever I receive some compensation, I return, I give in return. So I drew it, and whenever I got the money, I felt obligated to draw more and more and more. And so it came to the point where I had like $400. All right, I had a lot of money to spend on video games. And whenever I had enough money to buy a PSP and the game itself, I was in a good state. And the problem I had at that time was buying the game. I wanted a game that I would truly like, that I would play continuously. So I was like, I could buy that Dragon Ball Z game. I could not find it anywhere. Carlton, what he ended up doing, he let me borrow it for a while and I played it. But I also bought Metal Gear Acid 2, I believe. And I finished that game. I played that game to death because it was like the only game I really wanted. And of course the Dragon Ball Z game that Carlton lent me. So I was playing those 2 games and I ran into a problem, which was the SD card. I had to buy another SD card, and at the time, all you could really get a hold of at max was like 1 gig. So I had to find a 1 gig memory card out in the wild, and that was hard to do. And whenever I found one, it was super expensive. So a lot of my money went to memory cards and Metal Gear Acid. And then out of nowhere, Namco announces Tekken Dark Resurrection. It's a port of Tekken 5, the Tekken 5 arcade counterpoint to be exact. And so after I bought, and this is strange, after I bought Tekken Dark Resurrection, a lot of people at school, almost everybody at school had a PSP. They had a PSP, and man, we got ridiculous with it. So we would hold these competitions, these Tekken competitions. Tekken Dark Resurrection, I'm just going to say it right now, that's what made this the best portable device ever for me. And it made it the best thing to own back then, because not after school, during school, we would have these competitions, we would have these Tekken competitions where we would play. Sometimes it would be a tournament, we would do exhibition, we had all kinds of ways to play Tekken Dark Resurrection. We would play behind the school library, we would skip class to play Tekken Dark Resurrection, and we would play during class even. It got out of hand. Some teachers even joined in on the fun. I remember I was playing in my math class, and me and Carlton were playing Tekken Dark Resurrection. And I remember my teacher, Mr. Skelton, he took my PSP, and he was like, Tekken? And then he was playing it. And I was like, oh my gosh, Mr. Skelton's playing Tekken Dark Resurrection. That's crazy. And so he was playing with us. He was losing. He was pretty good with Huarong, but he couldn't beat me. And that's something I have to note right now, that at the time, I was the best Tekken player in the school. Nobody could touch me. I was unbeatable. I had a reputation to uphold. So nobody could beat me until I was a senior in high school. This freshman comes up to me and he beats me. And I'm like, well, I guess you can't win them all. I used to feel really bad about it, but this kid that beat me at the time, his name was Danny. He's known as Danny Goku. He's a pretty top tier Tekken player right now. Pretty top tier Soul Calibur player too. So yeah, I don't feel bad about losing to that kid who is now a pretty good Tekken player in real life. So yeah, I'm going to talk about some two stories that I have with my PSP. I could talk about PSP stories all day if I wanted to, but I'm just going to keep it down to 2 since, this is a pretty long video and I don't want to take up a lot of y'all's time. But there was a time, and this is story number 1, there was a time where I had to choose my PSP over a girlfriend of mine. And to this day, I feel pretty bad about it, but at the same time, I don't, because let me just tell you the story. So, yeah, during this time, oh my gosh, how do I even start? I had this girlfriend, her name was Anna. She was very attractive. A lot of people in school were like, man, my God, why are you going out with Chris? This guy, this PSP guy. And there was a reason why she was going out with me. It was a very superficial reason, I think. And it was because at the time I was in a band. I played guitar. I wasn't the lead guitar, but I played guitar and I did backup vocals. I did one guitar solo just because I didn't ask for it. They just thought it would be cool if I did one. Because they knew I was learning like Metallica-esque songs, ex-Japan songs. So they're like, well, let's see some of Chris's skills. So I played, and that's where she saw me. She said, oh, I like how Chris played guitar, I like his red guitar. And it was a very superficial thing. That's why she went out with me. And I accepted that. I was like, okay, whatever. I have this girl that a lot of guys want to be with. So I was happy. And it was at this time, Carlton, we learned that you can hack a PSP, play SNES games, Sega Genesis games, and all that good stuff on your PSP. So it was at that time where I was like, I want my PSP hacked. And so Carlton takes my PSP, and he was charging people for him to hack their PSPs. And I said, okay, Carlton, I'll give you $20. He was charging people $15. He's like, no, man, I'll do it for free. You're my bro. And I was like, no, man, you're my bro. I'm going to pay for you. I'm going to pay top dollar for you to hack my PSP. So I give him $20. He takes my PSP. He said, okay, it's going to take about 2 days because he wants to give me a lot of ROMs and stuff, because back then I didn't know about hacking PSPs or anything. He was hacking it with like a battery, Pandora's battery. I'm not sure how that process works even to this day. But he was doing it through that process. I trusted him, and I said, you know, if it breaks, it breaks. If it messes up, it's all good. So, yeah, I had a lot of time. I had a lot of time to spend with my then girlfriend, whose name is Anna. And we were just hanging out how boyfriend and girlfriend would hang out. So sometimes she would sneak over to my place. We would do things, you know, just typical teenage stuff. And I would take her out to eat with the money I got from my hentai stuff. And she didn't know I did that, by the way. I kept that from a lot of people because that's something a pervert would do. Hentai means pervert, you know? You don't want to tell people you do that shit. And so I was taking her out with that money. She was like, how do you get so much money? And I lied to her. I was like, I'm a musician. I make a lot of money. That was bullshit. We made $0. But I would take her out to nice places. We would do things. You know, it was a good time. It was a good time for her. It was a pretty good time for me. And then I got my PSP back. And that's where it all changed. And so I was pretty rusty at Tekken in my junior year. Getting my PSP back from being hacked. This was before my senior year, because my senior year I lost. So my junior year, I had a reputation to maintain. So I had to retrain in Tekken, because when I got it back, I was losing some rounds. I was losing rounds on Tekken. I wasn't losing matches. I was losing rounds. And people would brag saying, oh, I beat Chris a round. Oh my gosh. And that shit really bothered me back then. I was so competitive. I'm like, I'm going to get better. I'm going to freaking destroy them next time I fight them. And so I was spending all this time training. I was training with Krishna. We were both trying to get better. And this girl, Anna, she expressed, she said, I do not like you playing your PSP. And I looked at her, I was like, what did you just say to me? Just stop saying that. And she was like, I really don't like it. It's not an attractive quality in you. And at the time I was like, I don't give a shit what you think, girl. All right. I don't give a shit. And she walked away, and she was trying to like make me jealous and all this stuff. It wasn't working. I'm like, you go talk to guys. I don't care. I'm with my PSP. I'm with my boys, man. I don't give a shit. And then out of nowhere, man, one day she just made a huge scene. She threw her backpack down, and she said, all right, Chris, you're going to have to make a choice. I don't mind you playing your guitar and practicing and all that stuff, but this video game stuff, it has to stop. It's either your PSP or me. That's what she told me. That's what she said in front of my friends. I'm like, we couldn't have this conversation privately? She's like, no, we need to have it now. I'm like, there was a private time. You know, you could have came over. We could have did things at my parents'. And then after that, we could have talked about this. You have to talk about it with me right now? You make me choose between my PSP and you? And she's like, choose now. And then here was my reaction. I said, PSP, girlfriend. PSP, girlfriend. All right, PSP it is. Go, shoo. Yeah, I was pretty bad. I was a terrible kid. Oh, like right now, I feel really bad about that. Not that I want to choose her or anything like that, but like, I was a pretty terrible kid. I had an addiction problem with the video games, and you know, I have an addictive personality. I was addicted to cigarette smoking back then, video games, you know, the addiction took over, really. That's what it was. I mean, it's debatable, but I knew addiction when I experienced it, and this was addiction. I feel so bad. I'm so sorry, Anna. Alright, I hope you're okay. I hope you're doing great. Alright, so one last story, if I could get to it. I got my PSP taken out. I'm going to talk about that story. So, there was a time where I got my PSP taken up. Now, before I got it taken up, it was widely known by administrators in the school that my peeps, we had started something. They considered it a gang in school. They considered it gang activities in school. So they saw me as the leader of this gang, which was a really bad thing. So a few people, like teachers, administrators, they were a little scared of me. And my art teacher at the time, they were just wondering, what's happening, Chris? And I told them straight up, I'm just playing a video game. We're just having tournaments and having fun. We're not doing any gang activity or anything like that. And so the rumor had it to, there was a rumor going around that we were gambling, which was not a lie. I mean, it wasn't a rumor, it was actually happening. But the rumor was that I was in charge of the whole thing and I was making a lot of money. And so administrators, they took my ex-girlfriend, they talked to her about just me and my money. And so they talked and they said, or my ex-girlfriend said that I was loaded with cash. I took her out to nice places, which was true. I took her out to nice places. But what she did not know was that I had the money and I got it by selling hentai, which again is not a good thing to do. I mean, it was an honest way to make money. Honestly, like, why not make money that way? I mean, it was pretty disgusting what I drew, but it was an honest way to make money. I wasn't gambling. I wasn't doing any of that stuff. And that's what they were wanting to know, how I was gambling, what I was doing. She didn't know, but she did say that I was involved in the gambling, which I was not. I had no idea it was taking place. Had I known, I would want to be a part of it. Yeah, as a teenager, I would want that. But the Tekken players at the time did not want me involved with it because it wouldn't be fair. I would always win. They knew this. And whenever I explained to the administrators that I had no idea of the gambling, they believed me because I said it wouldn't be fair to the people gambling because I would always win. I would take their cash, honestly. That's why I had no idea it was going around. And so they said, okay, well, we want to take up your PSP, or they called it a BlackBerry. They want to take it away. And I said, you can't take that away from me. And so they said, well, we're going to search you then. I'm like, you have no right to search me. And then they asked, is it on you? Is your PSP on you? I said, it's hidden. I'm not going to take it out all day because of this. I'm not going to give it to you either. And so they bring in a cop and they said, this cop's going to search you because we have probable cause, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, fucking, just go ahead and search me. And so the cop searches me, goes in my backpack. He takes out my PSP and he's like, we don't care about that here. And my principal's like, what are y'all doing? Take that. That's the problem with all of this. And he's like, nah, we're only looking for drugs. If he's playing a video game or talking on a phone, we don't care. And so I walk out, I give a smirk to the principal. I'm just like, yeah, you can't get me. And he's pissed. At this point, he's like out to get me. So he sends these, I don't know what they are, or I still don't know to this day, but these administrators, they dressed in black. They always walked around the school. I would see them break up fights and all that good stuff. They followed me. They followed me everywhere I went. And so I didn't take out my PSP at all during those times. But one thing I did have was this weird fashion statement. And if you played Tekken, you did this in school. So what we did, we would have headphones connected to one pocket to the other one. So I would have my headphones from here, my PSP would be here, and then the headphones themselves would be in the other pocket. So we would have that going on Also, some of my friends, they had chains connected to their PSPs like that. Sometimes I did that too. I connected a small chain to the other pocket. My friends, they had a knife, so they would connect the chain right here, and then over here on the other end would be a knife. I did that one time, and then I was like, no, that's a weapon. And since I was being monitored by the school, I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that, period, ever, at all. So I would walk around that way around school, because whenever I walked into a new person that I've never seen before, I would tell them, get your PSP out, let's play some Tekken. And it was a friendly competition. You know, I was looking for someone to beat me when I was a junior in high school. And so I remember walking in front of this administrator. I remember his hair was like puffy. He kind of looked like Elvis. And he's like, get your PSP out. I'm like, what, you want to battle? And then he was like, no, I don't want to battle. I'm taking up your PSP. And I said, you can't do that. I don't have it out right now, buddy. And he's like, give me your PSP right now. And so I take out the headphones. I give him the headphones. They're the cheap PSP headphones. And I give it to him. I said, there you go. Bye-bye. I got to go. And he's like, nope, not so fast. He gets my PSP out my pocket, out of my own free will. And I'm like, dude, you can't do that. I'm not even playing it. He's like, that's too bad. You're going to have to pay the fee to get it back, which was like $25 or something like that. I don't remember. And so that happens to me. And I vent to a friend. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't get my PSP back. It's gone. My PSP days are over. And I had to call my mom. I had to call my parents to get all that stuff out from the office. And at the time, I could not tell my parents because I was already in enough trouble. Back in the day, I got in so much trouble, not just with like minor stuff, but I got into a lot of trouble. And my parents knew about it, and I was already on their shit list. I didn't want to dive myself deeper into that hole. So I was like, I got to keep them out of this. I've already gotten into so much trouble already, and I don't know how I'm going to get it back. I'm probably not going to get it back, period. And so this friend, her name's Melina, she says, I can help you out, Chris. And I'm like, how? And she explains how. She says, I can get my mom to pretend to be your mom, and we can get your stuff out of the office. You just have to give me the money. And I said, okay. And she's like, I want something in return if I do this, though. And unfortunately, due to YouTube's guidelines, I'm not going to tell you all what that is. I can leave it up to y'all's imagination. It's whatever. But she tells me that her mom will impersonate my mom to get the PSP back from the office. And so she does that. Her mom comes up. I'm like, oh my God, this is actually happening. And so we go to the office. I give her mom my $25. She gives it to the office. She gives my PSP back. She's like, here you go, son. And I said, thank you, mom. She's like, give me a hug, son. That's what you do to your mom. You give me a hug after I give you your PSP. She was milking the whole thing. She's like, what do you do to your mom? What do you say to her? And I'm like, I already said thank you, mom. Now give your mother a hug. And then she gives me a hug. I'm like, oh my God. She's just making this weird on purpose. She was having fun with it. Anyways, I get my PSP back and I said, oh my gosh, guys, thank you all so much. You didn't have to do this. I can't believe we got away with it. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. And she's like, yeah, but you have to do what my daughter says now. And I'm like, wait, you know about that? Which I can't tell you guys. But she's like, yeah, y'all have the house to yourselves. All right, be safe. So, yeah. That happens, and I got my PSP back, and I did the deed, which, you know, to this day, I'm like, well, I did it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's one for the history books. Oh my God. Yeah, I have so many crazy stories with my PSP. Like, a lot of crazy memories. I did a lot of stupid shit back then. And because of this, it was because I wanted a PSP. I wanted to maintain the community I had. It was fun, you know? And I did stupid shit to keep my PSP. There were so many stories. I could go on and on. There was one with a fire extinguisher and it breaking, but I'm going to save that for another time. So guys, if you all have any memories you would like to share with a PSP, with a Sega Game Gear, guys, leave that in the comments below. Tell me your story. It doesn't have to be about a PSP. It could be about the Nintendo Wii. It could be about the Wii U, 3DS. It could be about any game console, any portable video game console. I know I'm not the only one that has these kinds of stories. I know they're out there, and I would like to read them. But anyways, guys, this is Chris the Pocket Master. And I am signing off because my camera, I believe, is about to die.